Mr. Primetime, long time no talk.
More drinks. Here we go.
I got you. I'm with you.
Can I just say that, like, before this lockdown ever even started and, like, before all this news started happening every single day with the injuries and everything, I never drank at home, like, ever. I would drink at tailgates when I went out to a game, Friday night, Saturday night. Every night, like, you read the news, another guy gets injured or 15 guys returning that didn't do anything back to the practice squad. Let's drink again. Like, Jesus Christ, here we go.
You know what it is though, because like I drink a lot of water and stuff like that, or like iced tea or lemonade. But you get bored with it, and then it's like, let's do some Jets content. But you know what? To do that, you got to offset the anger and just
you can't do this sober. You can't.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
we're in deep shit coming next 16, 17 weeks. But obviously, the news of the day is the practice. I mean, first of all, thank you to everybody that watched our last video. We're going to do a lot of videos coming up. We got a live stream after the game. We got Tuesday night. We got Friday nights. We got all kinds of content coming up. So we appreciate everybody that watches these videos. It's funny. We analyzed all the cuts yesterday, and then pretty much everybody that was cut today is coming back today, or cut yesterday is coming back today. I mean, let's start with the positives. The positives are the Jets. They had their backup center. They brought Andrews back, which is fine. Nate Harrison's coming back. Whatever. Daniel Brown's coming back. That's the blocking tight end everybody was talking about. So those three guys are coming back to the roster, which means they're probably going to make 3 IR moves. There'll be guys that are out for 3 weeks, probably Vincent Smith, Zuniga, Bryce Hall, whoever else. Yeah, Owasu. Yeah, that's probably the 3 guys right there. Yep. So those 3 guys are back. John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff both on the roster, not the practice squad, the roster. Interesting. Those are kind of surprising to me because we need pass rushers, but Bryce Huff, according to reports, didn't do anything in camp, didn't leave any impact, and he's on the roster.
The only positives for me today, I think, are the fact that you kept 11 guys on the practice squad from the offensive side of the ball, and the 4 guys that you kept on defense, they were all defensive backs, which is obviously a major concern right now. But the fact that you brought back all 15 guys that were on your original roster, and I understand that there's complications, with COVID, you got to get guys tested. It takes a couple days to get them in the building. I get all that. But you can't tell me this roster is set and ready to go. You can't tell me that.
Any sense, dude.
With all the injuries we've had and all these guys that Sam's been throwing to, there wasn't one wide receiver that we could have picked up that was better than what we had. There wasn't one pass rusher out there, like you talked about, Shaquem Griffin. I mean, nobody.
Yeah, and the weird part is that was my reaction. Like, there's not one person across the entire NFL that piqued Joe Douglas's interest, where he's like, hey man, let's bring him in. And the argument that, well, there's so many restrictions, there's so many limitations. When you have a practice squad, it's not just for week 1. It's to identify players for week 5, for week 6, for maybe even next year. You groom, you develop. You see what they bring to the table. Maybe a guy you wanted to draft, you couldn't draft, becomes available. Hey, you know what? Let's bring him in and see what he has. What kind of shape is he in? Maybe it's a diamond in the rough. Like I like Shaq Griffin. People want Hakeem Butler. All these different guys. Sidney Jones, Ross, like all these different guys. They didn't put in no claims. And I understand all the limitations, but you got to look further than week 1. Like, maybe you find a guy that you can get, like week 10, week 12, and you can use him next year. Like, you start, it's crazy, dude.
Especially this year when you can carry 16 guys on the practice squad. You can elevate them to the roster and send them back down twice without getting claimed off waivers. This is a perfect opportunity to, really bring in some guys that you think could contribute long term. And we just kept everybody that we had. So we're saying that the known is better than the unknown, and what we have is in-house is better than what's out there. So we're trusting Joe Douglas and Adam Gase and what they've seen over the last few weeks, and I don't know what to say.
To me, and this isn't nitpicking because people are going to say, oh, you guys are being too critical. Not being critical, but the goal is to acquire as much talent as possible. Like, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, we both know Dante Moncrief sucks. Let's be honest. He's not a good player. So you have him on your practice squad. Why not bring in a young guy that's still learning his way in the NFL to see if you can groom him and find something out of him? Like you talk about the unknown. We know what Moncrief's a known, dude. We know what he is. So why have a practice squad for him? Why not bring in that Hakeem Butler? Why not bring in all these young receivers? Like, I'd scatter it. Can we talk about having 5 quarterbacks on the team? Or is that not allowed to talk about that? 5, dude. 5 quarterbacks. Is that the best way to use your practice squad? Having all these guys on the roster? When we need cornerbacks, we need pass rushers, we need wide receivers. Why not more running backs? Like, why not try to, dude, this should be a revolving door to acquire as much talent as possible. You have quarterbacks that what are we doing, dude? Like, why not have a kicker? Bring in a kicker. Well, seriously, why not have a kicker on the practice squad? They're not trying anybody out. You look at today's tryout list, not one tryout for the New York Jets. Why not sign a kicker to the practice squad and let him compete for Sam Fickens' job? See what he has. Because once the guy's in your facility, you see what you have. Instead of trusting scouting reports or some goddamn video from an agent. Like, this is a true rebuild, then we shouldn't be wasting practice squad spots in a year when you have a lot more flexibility.
Especially on Mike White and David Fales. I mean, these are guys.
It's a waste of time.
And that's why I had my point yesterday that, if we're talking 2 to 3 weeks until Flacco's back, on the off chance that Darnold gets hurt, you let Morgan get a couple reps. Big deal. These guys, both of them, they're not doing anything to change the landscape of the team. If Darnold goes down, they're not winning you any games. So what's the point of keeping them on the practice squad? You have a veteran in Flacco who can be in Sam's ear, can learn the offense. You have Morgan who's developing. What's the point of having these two guys here? What did they offer you? What did they provide you?
Dude, at this rate, Josh McCown went back to the Eagles as their quarantine quarterback. I would have rather had him than Flacco and just had, McCown, Darnold, and Morgan and move on and stop wasting all our time with all this other shit. Like the roster management here, and this, I understand it's only a practice squad, but if we're being honest, Fales is nothing to do with our future. Mike White's not either. So those are what are we doing here? Like, and then we have the Kafusi brothers, all this. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why? Like, this team needs an influx of talent.
They could have sold me on Kafusi as a defensive lineman, but the fact that he moved him to tight end this offseason and we're trying him there, and I think he made the practice squad and they're going to keep him in the offense, like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what Corbin Kafusi really offers. Haven't seen much of him, but just a lot of questions, dude. And you can't question anything from Joe Douglas, or else you get ripped about it. So.
Oh yeah, because now that's like their new thing. It's, dude, you don't trust him, this and that. Listen, I understand that he has a front office full of all these quality guys. No front office is perfect, and this organization as a whole is like, dude, I'm not giving anybody a pass, and like everybody should be questioned. Like, I had a joke today on Twitter where it was like, listen, if a solid move is made, it was Joe Douglas is a great GM. If a questionable move is made, it's Adam Gase has too much say. It's never Joe Douglas. Like, he never makes a bad move. Nothing questionable. It's always either Gase really sucks on personnel or Joe Douglas is a genius. There's no middle ground here. Here's
the thing with Douglas. I have all the respect in the world for him, from his background, where he came from. I think he's going to do good things long term with all the draft picks that he has. Long term, I think we're in good hands with him. But it still pisses me the fuck off that you have a rookie quarterback with 3 years on his contract. That's the great opportunity you have to win. Like, the Chiefs did it, the Eagles did it with Wentz. That's your opportunity right there. And I understand the roster had some holes, but he also inherited guys like Bell and Herndon and Crowder. He had Adams on the team, and he got some picks for him. But he had May and Quinn Williams. It's not like this roster was bare. It's not like what McCagnon inherited, what Idzik inherited. So I'm going to give him the leash that I gave both those guys. But it still pisses me off that you have your quarterback on his rookie contract and we didn't try to take advantage of this time. That's what bothers me the most. And that going into this year, the pieces that are around Sam right now, the offensive line is upgraded, but still some questions, and the wide receivers are a complete unknown.
Yep. No,
so what exactly did we do this offseason? And almost every single starter on the defensive side of the ball is a McCagnon guy, minus Pierre Desir and McDougald. Everyone else was from McCagnon. So what did we really do this offseason?
No, and that's, and you look at the practice squad real quick. Fales, Mike White, okay, Josh Adams, which I do like as a running back, Notre Dame bias, but the kid can play a little bit. Lawrence Cager, everybody's happy about that. Josh Malone, whatever. Dante Moncrief, I mean, whatever. DJ Montgomery, they must like him for a reason. They got him. Kafusi, Ross Travis, tight end. I mean, offensive line, Guidry back, speed guy. Then you have your safety, Bennett Jackson, Lamar Jackson, and Zane Lewis. I mean, defensive backs. I don't know, dude. Like, I was shocked. I mean, I had high hopes. I thought there were some other players out there that you could bring it. You bring in some fresh blood, man. You say, okay, listen, this is our chance to take advantage of certain things. Having all these quarterbacks makes no sense. I know you have the whole Flacco thing makes it challenging, but to just I guess it's just a part. Maybe I am just a negative fan, dude. Maybe I am just so skeptical about everything because I just thought like, wow, we have a chance to just surface the NFL and say, okay, listen, we need an influx of talent at so many different positions. We're going to find some guys to bring in. No stone unturned. And the Jets said, you know what? We're not even bringing the stone out. We're good with what we have. Now, maybe they'll make a move tomorrow or something else. Somebody's shaking free. Maybe they're negotiating or something like that with, a different player. But I was baffled, dude. Completely baffled by this.
Yeah. I mean, again, a few positive moves. Cager coming back. I like that. I like Guidry and Lamar Jackson being on the practice squad. But other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of young guys that you're looking at saying, all right, these guys probably have a future here. I mean, a lot of it's unknown because we don't really know what these guys did in training camp. But it's still, it's hard to sell me that when you look around the league at all these other teams that have a lot more talent than we do, that had to make some difficult cuts at some positions where they had a lot of talent, that not one of these guys could have came in and improved our roster.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that. Like, Harrison came back, and Andrews came back, and Brown. It's like, were they trying to get somebody else, and it didn't pan out? Was it a money grab? Like,
well, I think the Harrison move was about money. The fact that you were able to cut him and now you bring him back, he's not going to get the contract that he had guaranteed. And I guess, the same thing kind of with Harrison. If you felt that Andrews offers similar production at a less value, then you make that move as well, I guess. But I don't know.
Strange, man. Strange handling of this. But like I said, who do we know? I mean, right now we're at the point where there's a certain part of the fan base that will justify every move the team makes because it's great, we're smart. And the other half is kind of skeptical. It's like there's always, you know what I mean? There's not really a common denominator here. It's like a kind of divided group. And I guess that's kind of because we're concerned. We want to be competitive. We want to, constantly upgrade because we know this roster has holes. And we're a week away from now from Buffalo. And I think a lot of these holes against quality teams will be exposed probably very early on in the game. And then after the game, the post-game reaction, like everybody's going to start complaining when half of these issues are being identified today and yesterday and last month and 2 months ago.
Oh, listen, I hope we're wrong. I hope we look like a bunch of jackasses in a few weeks and a lot of these guys step up and make plays and prove that they deserve to be here. I just don't think that based off of all the reports that we've been reading for the past few weeks, how the offense has been performing, third string, fourth string wideouts not doing anything. It's just hard to believe that there was nobody out there that could have improved this team. Not one person.
No, and what you got to do now is today is Sunday. You got to hope Perriman's on the field tomorrow. You got to help Perriman is back at, on his game, ready to play. Obviously, Crowder's there. Mims, you got to hope is, catching up to speed as fast as possible. You have Barrios and Hogan, but it's not ideal there. And then you look at, okay, now the tight end group, which we thought, originally is going to be a strength, is obviously a strength. Herndon, was banged up a little bit, but he's back. You have Brown, you have 4 good tight ends. You have, in theory, at least 2 good running backs. I don't know, no idea what Perrine's going on with his injury, but, then that's basically your strength of your offense because the receiving group is such an unknown, dude. It's wild.
Yeah. And again, if you add some wideouts to this group, I don't think this offense is far away from being like a top 10 unit. That might be a stretch. Obviously, a lot goes into that with Gase. A lot goes into that with Gase and how quickly Darnold can progress. But yeah, I mean, Le'Veon Bell, legitimate weapon. I think Chris Herndon and Crowder, we've talked about them, for the past couple of weeks, what they can do. It's just a matter of what you have on the outside and how quickly that offensive line can gel. I think it's much improved from last year. And we saw, the opening drive. It's not like they couldn't go down the field and score. They did it like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. So I think it was just a matter of, the communication, not making adjustments, a lot of things that went wrong. So I think there was some talent here, and that's just what bothers me, that when you have your quarterback on his rookie contract, you have a window to do something. Yep. And it just seems like we're punting it towards next year in the future. And I'm okay with that if Douglas hits on these picks and he does what he's supposed to. But if not, then we're in the same spot that we've been in for the last 10 years. Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird because, like I said, you're a week away from Buffalo. And obviously, as the week kicks in, we're going to start getting excited, stuff like that. But, we get a lot of messages like, oh, what do you guys think? What's your record prediction? What's all this? And it's like, I'm, cautiously optimistic. I just – there's so many unknowns, which we talked about endlessly over the last 3 months. And to know that you're going against a team that has a lot of continuity, just came out the playoffs. If you go player for player, talent for talent, they have more talent than the Jets. This point spread is 6.5 or 7 points. And I thought it'd be higher, to be honest with you. I'm excited, but my expectations are kind of, I don't expect much the first couple weeks. Bills, 49ers, I'm kind of chalking up as losses. I'm not proud of it. I'm not excited about it. I want to be wrong I definitely want to be wrong. But if we're just being honest about it, you're like, oh, man, you know what I mean? You could just see that the growing pains, the learning curves, the quality of opponent, it's I'm not jumping, you know what I mean? You're excited about opening day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, man, you just don't want to go through this whole 27-10 ass kicking. Everybody fire Gase after the game. Then you lose to the 49ers. Oh, this team's a dumpster fire the whole staff. I just don't feel like dealing with that again, man.
I completely agree. The excitement is going to be there regardless, but just the expectations, they're not. They are what they are. I think the best we can hope for is that Sam and Gase get on the same page, learn from last year, and the offense kind of carries things. I don't really expect much from the defense. I think they lost too much, and they really haven't upgraded a lot of those premium spots. So, I think you're looking at 500, max, best case scenario, 8-8, but I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, our Twitter account, @TalkJetsRadio, we did it this morning. We did the whole thing. Like, what's a record prediction?
Yep.
And the common denominator was 5-11, 6-10, 5-11, 6-10, 7-9. So most Jet fans aren't even expecting a 500 season. They're already, kind of saying, you know what, it's going to be one of these years again. And it's like, all right, 7-9 you could deal with. 6-10 if Sam's playing well. You get in that 4-12, 5-11 kind of year again, dude. Like last year was just painful. Even though they finished strong, they did do well towards the end. That first half of the season, dude, was probably one of the most miserable experiences being a Jet fan. Because I'm older. I mean, it's just painful, dude. Like, it sucks the life out of you, and football stops becoming fun.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that anybody wants this year is to kind of like be in that middle ground at the end of the year where we're still unsure about Adam Gase because, we only won 5 or 6 games. And, Sam, so he showed some moments, and other times he looked like shit. Like, that's what we don't want, to still have all these questions at the end of the year. One way or another, I want an answer. So, and that's, again, like going back to what we've just been talking about, that's why I felt like all the resources this offseason really should have been put into the wide receivers and Sam Darnold. That way you can get your answer about Adam Gase and not have all these excuses about holes at receiver and everything else. So,
and that's the whole thing. Like, people say, okay, well, what are your expectations week 1? I'm like, all right, there are a lot of built-in excuses to lose this game. I want to see them be competitive. You want to see them be physical, disciplined, well-coached, and have a game plan. Like, know what the fuck you're doing out there. It may not be pretty. I think every team in the NFL is going to be sloppy. There's going to be all kinds of mistakes. But, like, say, okay, at some point, we got to establish our identity on offense. Like, we want to walk away from this game and say, okay, maybe they lost 24-13. What was the game plan, and did they attack a weakness? Did it make sense? Or was it just throw shit on the wall and see what happens? Like, did they feature Le'Veon Bell? What was the passing game like? Did they try to work the Sam Darnold strengths? Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm watching for in a game that they're probably supposed to lose. You know what I mean? Like, you want to see, like, they've had the entire offseason to prepare for this one game, right? That's your game tape, your focus is week 1. This is nothing else. Like, as the season progresses, things change because now you got to watch how your opponent change and injuries, all this shit. This has been your focus for weeks now, especially when you have nothing else to do but watch film because you're sitting around all the time. So you want to see them come out with a valiant effort, smart, and like, hey, that makes sense. Like, they're changing things up and they're trying to maximize their resources. That's how we should assess what Gase is doing. Like, let's not accept, just a thumping where they look like they're dazed and confused, and adjustments. And that's something you always talked about. Like, they look great for the first drive. You're like, holy shit, who is this Jets team? Then slowly but surely, offense goes into a shell. They go to halftime. They come out. It makes sense for about, 8 plays. Then they go back into a shell again. Like, let's see things happen on the fly. Let's see adjustments. And let's see Sam Darnold take control. Like, let's see him command the huddle and be like, you know what? These plays aren't working. Call something else.
Yeah, and I said months ago, I don't even want to put expectations on playoffs. Like, that's not a requirement for Gase to come back next year. It's not about wins and losses this season, at least in my opinion. It's about Sam Darnold. It's about keeping that locker room together. It's about learning from all the mistakes that he's had over the first 4 years of being a head coach. The ego, not making adjustments, all these things, alienating star players. If he can improve upon all those things and you start seeing some progress at the end of the year, okay, we can move forward with you. But if not, and if it's more of the same, then you got to move on. So, I don't know.
Be an interesting week. Hopefully there's more moves made, man. Like, I'd like to see them make more moves, and we got to make more videos and talk about, roster. I'm hoping something happens. Like, I just think there's still more talent out there they can acquire and not just stay status quo. I'm like, okay, we're good for now. It's not just, I don't know.
Again, this is why I was saying yesterday, it feels like they're punting the season. And I hate to use that word, punt, tank, whatever. If you want to call it an evaluative year to make yourself feel better, that's fine. That's what it feels like when you have all this cap space that you're not using and you don't claim any players that were released off of teams that have some talent at a lot of positions that we need. I mean, what are we doing? Like, can we really honestly say that winning in 2020 is the priority right now? It doesn't feel that way.
No, it doesn't. It's like you read about all these, and that's, like I said, we keep harping about, like, read about all these teams that are loaded with wide receivers. They have to make tough cuts. Can we keep this guy? Can they keep that guy? And they were like, nope, we don't want them. We want Josh Malone and Dante Moncrief. No disrespect to Josh Malone because I've never seen him play yet. But you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, man. Like, it's just – and it's like – and to see that, I don't know. We'll see, man. Like, I'm skeptical. I'm surprised. I expect different things. I'll still say I like Shaq Griffin. I love to see what Craig Williams can do with him. I like explosive players that have that passion and love for the game and can do a lot of things. Maybe they already have that in Frankie Louvu. Who knows? But, just constantly change things up, especially when you had this expanded practice squad. Like, to have fun. I'm not
Well,
repeating myself.
No, I think they're just looking at it like, with all the craziness this offseason and no preseason
Take
and everything
advantage
else.
of it then, dude.
You can look at it that way, or you can look at it like the limited time that we have had to try and implement what we're doing. These are the guys that know it, so we're going to roll with them.
Yeah, but if they're not going to bring them up for game day anyway, they're in your goddamn building. So then you have them there. That's how you evaluate them, dude. 'Cause you can't. There's no other outlet to evaluate them. Their last game tape is either college or last year in the NFL. There's nothing else to talk about. So you get them in the building. Okay, listen, we've always been curious about them. We got 16 spots, whatever the hell it is. Let's bring them in.
No argument for me, man.
So we'll see. I mean, there could be moves being made right now while we're on this video. Who the hell knows? We'll see what happens. I mean, we'll be live Tuesday night talking about things, and then Friday night, and then I can't wait for the post game because that's gonna be complete chaos. So
can't wait.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right.